I want you to picture this. It's the 17th century. A powerful sultan is woken up in the middle of the night, but it's not by an assassin. It's by two divine guards who proceed to dunk an absolute fortune in gold coins right at his feet. Now, this wasn't a robbery. It was a ransom payment, a divine intervention to free one man from a dark prison cell. And the story behind that incredible payment is what we're about to get into.
So that's the big question, isn't it? Why on earth would divine guards be paying off a king? It's the kind of story that just blurs the line between history and miracle. And it all revolves around a debt that was apparently paid by the gods themselves. But, to understand the divine payment, you first have to understand the very human crime that led to it.
And we're not talking about a small sum here. We're talking about 600,000 gold coins. That staggering amount is the key to this entire story. It represents a huge debt, an incredible act of defiance, and ultimately an unbelievable act of grace. So how did this fortune find its way to the feet of a king?
Well, to find out, we've got to rewind a bit and meet our main character, a man named Kancherla Gopanna. Now, on the surface, he was just a tax collector, but his real defining feature was his extraordinary devotion. And it was exactly that devotion that would push him to make a decision that would change his life and, you could say, history forever.
The whole thing really gets started when a group of local tribal women made a totally miraculous discovery deep in the forest near Bhadrachalam. They found these beautiful, sacred idols of Lord Rama, Sita, and Lakshman. For Gopanna, this wasn't just some interesting find. For him, it was a divine sign. When Gopanna actually went to see the idols for himself, he was just overcome. Like the slide says, his heart broke. Seeing these sacred figures, these deities, just sitting in a simple, broken-down hut, exposed to the sun and the rain, it just felt so deeply wrong to him. He knew right then and there that he had to do something about it.
And this, right here, brings us to Gopanna's huge dilemma. On one side, you've got the government treasury, all that tax money he was legally sworn to protect. On the other side, you've got his heart, his vow to God, to build a magnificent temple that was actually worthy of these deities. So he made a radical choice. He decided he was going to use the state's money to build the temple, fully trusting that he could pay it all back later through donations. A huge risk.
As you can probably guess, an act of faith like that, well, it did not go unnoticed. Gopanna's decision had severe, and I mean immediate, consequences. It took him from the construction site of a glorious temple straight into the darkness of a prison cell. So when the Sultan of Golconda, Nawab Tana Shah, found out that his tax revenue had been, let's say, redirected to build a temple without his permission, he was furious. Golconda was arrested for embezzlement, and he was thrown into a dungeon in the infamous Golconda Fort. That cell, by the way, is still known today as the Ramadasu prison. And this wasn't a short stay. For 12 long years, Gopanna was stuck in that cell. And as you can see from this timeline, he went through immense hardship, even torture. But here's the truly amazing part. His spirit never broke. In fact, it was during these dark, awful years that he wrote some of his most beautiful and famous devotional hymns. His faith was actually growing stronger with every single passing day.
And this is where our story comes full circle. After 12 years of just unwavering faith in a dark, miserable prison, something truly extraordinary was about to happen. The debt was finally going to be paid, but not by any ordinary means. One night, Nawab Tana Shah is deep asleep, and he has this incredibly vivid and startling dream. Two radiant, powerful-looking guards just appear in his chambers. They were unlike anyone he had ever seen before, and they didn't just have a message. They had a payment. In this dream, the guards introduced themselves with these kind of peculiar names, Ramuji and Lakshmuji. They said they were there on behalf of Gopanna, and they presented the Nawab with the full 600,000 gold coins he was owed. Now, the Nawab had no idea who these guys were, but they were no ordinary messengers. No way. The visitors who called themselves Ramuji and Lakshmuji were, according to the legend, Lord Rama and his brother Lakshman. The very gods for whom Gopanna had sacrificed everything had come in person to pay their devotees' debt.
So the Nawab wakes up with a jolt, right? Probably thinking, wow, what a crazy dream. But then he looks over and he sees them, piles of glittering gold coins right there in his room. The dream was real. He was totally overcome with shock and, remorse. He did exactly what you see here. He ran to the prison, fell at Gopanna's feet crying, and begged him for forgiveness before releasing him with full honors.
Gopanna's release from prison wasn't the end of his story, not at all. It was really the beginning of his legend. That miraculous event transformed not just his life, but the entire identity of the temple he so famously built. From that moment on, the name Kancherla Gopanna was basically gone. Throughout the land, he became known as Ramadasu, and the name says it all. It literally means servant of Ram, a title he earned through his incredible, unshakable devotion and, of course, the divine intervention it inspired.
And the temple's significance, it absolutely lasts to this day. The Bhadrachalam Temple, the one built with government funds and paid for by a divine ransom, is now one of the most important pilgrimage sites in all of South India. It's even called the Ayodhya of the South, which just goes to show you its profound cultural and spiritual importance in the state of Telangana. It's a story that just leaves you with this one powerful question. For Ramadasu, his faith cost him 12 years of his life in a prison cell. But in return, it earned him a divine miracle and an eternal legacy. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is the true price of faith? And what rewards, seen or unseen, might it bring?